Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as she wrestled with the sight before her. The figure, a crooked silhouette against the pale moonlight, seemed to pulse with a life of its own, each movement a whisper of seduction and menace. She fought the urge to scream, to alert her children, but the spell of terror held her tight, rendering her mute. With shaky breath, she guided her thoughts away from Lucas. "Focus, Sarah. He's just playing games," she told herself, edging toward the window for a closer look. But as she leaned against the cool glass, the chill swept through her, paralyzing her with fear. It wasn't Lucas who was in trouble, it was her. What if this figure knew everything? "Mommy?" The soft voice of Emma sliced through the suffocating air. Sarah nearly jumped, spinning around to see her daughter hovering in the doorway, hair tangled like a nest. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, baby. Just a bad dream. Go back to bed." Emma hesitated, eyes wide, searching for lies in her mother's face. "Can I sleep with you?" Sarah's heart clenched. "Of course." They settled on the couch, enveloped in the blanket of darkness shadowing their home. The television flickered erratically, each flash casting monstrous shapes against the wall's shadows that danced like demons waiting for the signal to strike. Emma tossed and turned, her small body restless beside her mother. "I don't think we should be here," Emma murmured, clenching her pillow. "What if the figure comes back?" "It's just a story, sweetheart. Just a story." But even as she said the words, doubt slithered into her thoughts. Maybe the fear was right, it wasn't just a story. It lived, breathed, and watched, lurking at the edges of their lives. As silence folded over them like a shroud, a sound cut through low and feral. Against the howling wind, it was a laugh. Not just any laugh, but one that echoed like a taunt through the hollow rooms. "Mom, what was that?" Emma whispered, her voice a trembling thread. "I don't know." "Stay close," Sarah whispered back, gripping her daughter's arm. They strained to listen. There it was again, a chuckle that chilled Sarah's blood. It came from the direction of the school only a block away. "That's where he is," Lucas's words flooded her mind. Before fear could paralyze her, Sarah grabbed her phone, its glow fragile in the blackness. She slipped into the hallway, her heart racing. The sound was an invitation, drawing her closer to the secret that had been gnawing at her since she first entered the neighborhood. Stepping out of the house, an icy wind wrapped around her. The night felt alive, thrumming with stories hidden in the shadows. Each step toward the school was a journey into the abyss. The streetlights flickered ominously, bathing everything in an otherworldly glow. As she reached the school's rusted gate, she saw it, a gathering of shadows, intertwined, voiceless figures, moving slowly in a macabre waltz. Her breath caught. There were more than one. Those lost were not alone. "Sarah," a voice called from the darkness, deep and echoing, calling her name like a sinister melody. Dread clawed at her throat, but she stepped closer, curiosity battling fear. What secrets did these shadows hold? Suddenly, the laughter erupted into a chorus that vibrated through the very ground beneath her feet. Would she succumb to the darkness, or could she brave the unraveling horrors of this haunted past before it swallowed her whole? With trembling hands, she reached for the gate, feeling the cold metal bite against her palm. But then she hesitated. Something stirred in her gut. Was it desperation? Or something far darker lurking beneath? As the laughter intensified, Sarah's resolve wavered. What truth awaited her on the other side? Just then, the gate creaked open, beckoning her like a siren's song. The gate swung open with a sinister groan, revealing the schoolyard cloaked in shadows. Each flicker of the streetlight above churned the darkness into something more palpable, creeping, almost alive. A collective exhale felt like it came from the night itself, urging her onward. "Mommy," Emma's trembling voice echoed in Sarah's mind, the distant worry hanging like fog. It struck Sarah that Emma should never have been exposed to this. Innocence should shield her from the terrors of adults. With a last look back at the warm glow of their home, her instincts screamed to stay put. But something ignited within her a fierce, desperate need to protect her children at any cost. A chill swept over her, leaving goosebumps in its wake. The shadows in the schoolyard seemed to swirl, mutating into elongated forms that slithered closer. "What have you done?" they whispered in a chorus. The voices were familiar, yet alien. Each tone dripped with venom and woe, striking at her heart like a dagger. As she moved further inside, the atmosphere shifted thick and suffocating. She could feel the weight of unseen eyes. What if it was too late for Lucas? She fought against the rising panic washing over her as she tried to reach for any remnant of hope buried deep inside. Maybe this was a mistake. The thought nagged at her, but the laughter swelled around her, and her courage flared up in defiance. As the shadows danced, they shaped a path leading her deeper into their embrace. It was a twisted choreography of despair, beckoning her to learn their dark legacy. "Sarah," the voice whispered again, crawling under her skin, sending a shiver racing down her spine. She turned, heart racing. A shadow detached itself from the others, an amorphous form that pulsated and writhed, like smoke coiling around a flame. In its depths, she could almost make out a face, a twisted version of Lucas. The thought threatened to arrest her breath. "No! Get out!" she shouted, defiance cracking through the palpable tension. The laughter turned sharp, biting through the grief hovering like fog in the air. With every ounce of strength, she stepped back, the schoolyard morphing into a labyrinth of terror. "Where is he?" The shadows shuddered, whispering secrets, dark truths that clawed at the edges of her sanity. "He is part of us now," they chanted, their voices melding into a haunting echo. Sarah could feel her resolve slipping, but she couldn't turn away, not when Lucas's name rang louder in her ears, thicker than fear. A sudden thought stabbed through her, freezing her in place. What if Lucas was among the lost? Just as horrors buried deep began to surface, images of children who had vanished without a trace, the ground trembled beneath her. The shadows surged, coiling like serpents around her feet, and she felt the tug of fate as they pulled her closer to the heart of their darkness. "No!" She wrenched herself free from the grip of cold despair and turned to flee, but the shadows reared up, blocking her path. The laughter morphed into a shrieking sound, overwhelming her senses. With a primal scream, Sarah lunged forward, ready to break through, to escape the clutches of the darkness surrounding her. But just then, the ground shuddered, and a blinding flash lit up the courtyard. "What's happening?" she gasped, stumbling as a loud crash echoed, followed by an agonizing wail. From the shadows, a figure emerged, something altogether not human, yet feeling so achingly familiar. Fear rushed over her, drowning her in its depths. In that moment, she knew, to uncover the truth, she would have to confront what she had kept hidden. Would she find Lucas, or a fate worse than death? The shadows began to churn violently, and she was left teetering on the edge of a precipice, her destiny hanging in the balance. A howl pierced the air, raw and unholy. An icy wind whipped around Sarah, stinging her cheeks and tugging at her mind, filling it with visions of loss and darkness. The thing that stepped from the shadows was monstrous, twisting in and out of itself, and yet she could not look away. It loomed over her, its form distorting like a mirage, making it impossible to discern the truth of its existence. "Lucas!" she screamed, desperation twisting her throat. "Where is he?" The figure hesitated, its edges twitching. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw his face amid the shifting mass, his wide eyes silently pleading. But then it melted away, shifting back into the abomination. "Part of us," the shadows echoed back, their tone a mocking sing-song that reverberated in her bones. Terror surged through her veins, igniting a fire. "You're lying!" she shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony. "I refuse to believe it." But deep down, a part of her cowered in doubt, gnawing at the edges of her sanity. She felt the urge to flee, to escape back to safety, but there was nowhere to run. The shadows had woven a cage of darkness around her, a prison not of bars but of her own fears. Suddenly, the earth beneath her feet trembled violently as if the ground itself was shuddering from their malevolence. Cracks snaked outward, spewing forth whispers of secrets long buried. She stumbled, falling to her knees as the shadows conspired to drag her deeper into their fold. "Mommy," helped that ghostly whisper, achingly familiar, clawed at her heart. Emma's voice echoed, merging with the laughter of the shadows, and Sarah felt a cold sweat sweep over her. She couldn't bear the thought of putting her children in danger. She wouldn't be another victim. Pushing herself off the ground, she reached for the last remnants of her resolve. "No. I'm not afraid of you." She felt the surge of instinct pumping through her like electricity, igniting a frenzy that urged her toward the figure. And just as she raised her hand to confront it, a deafening crash split the air. Something massive struck the ground nearby, but she didn't flinch. The shadows recoiled slightly, their laughter faltering for just a moment. Whatever lay beneath the surface was awakening, and she could feel the pressure building. "Find him," Sarah uttered, more to herself than to the twisted being before her. "I'll do whatever it takes." A guttural growl rumbled from the figure, vibrating through the schoolyard. Shadows wrapped tighter around her body, constricting her with chilling intent as if they wanted to crush her soul. She gasped, heart racing. Fight or flight was colliding violently in her mind. And then she saw it, a glimmer, a flicker of light just beyond the epicenter of darkness. It felt like a beacon, and in that moment, she realized maybe hope still existed. As she moved toward that promising glimmer, the shadows shrieked in fury, their rage stoking her determination. The landscape shifted beneath her like a living thing, morphing into a nightmarish puzzle. Sarah lunged toward the light, but the shadows lunged with her, writhing like serpents, ready to drag her back into despair. "Lucas," she breathed, the name a lifeline that propelled her forward. "I'm coming." But then the ground fell away beneath her, and she plummeted into the cold, dark void, uncertainty gripping her heart. As she descended, a chilling realization sank in. What if she wasn't just searching for Lucas? What if she was standing at the edge of something far more insidious? Dark laughter filled her ears, the shadows closing in as she fell deeper into the abyss. Would she reach the light, or would the shadows claim her as one of their own? The fall seemed to stretch into infinity, the darkness both cold and clammy, wrapping around Sarah like a suffocating shroud. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out the otherworldly laughter that chased her down. Her thoughts spiraled as panic squeezed her chest. Would she land in whatever nightmare awaited her? Or would she vanish into shadows forever? Suddenly, her descent halted, and she tumbled into a subtle, warm glow that illuminated her surroundings. Disoriented, she stumbled forward, her breath hitching as her eyes adjusted. She found herself in a vast subterranean chamber made of smooth, glistening stone. The walls sparkled like stars in the night, but their beauty felt tainted, like a cruel trick played by malevolent spirits. She rubbed her arms to ward off the chill creeping beneath her skin and tried to make sense of her surroundings. In the center of the chamber stood a large stone altar, and on its surface lay objects, a collection of small, twisted figures carved from bone and blackened wood, their eyes empty but unyielding. Her throat tightened, recognizing the forms. They were dolls, much like the ones Emma cherished, but corrupted and wrong. An unsettling noise echoed through the chamber, and she turned to find a figure emerging from a dark tunnel. It was another creature, this one more humanoid and frail, contorted with impossibly long limbs and eyes that shone with a dull, malevolent light. It moved with a jerky motion, rattling as it approached. "Come to play," it rasped, the voice grating against her nerves. A primal instinct screamed for her to run. Yet Sarah held her ground, her resolve flickering like the dim light around her. "Where is Lucas?" The words tore from her throat, laced with desperation and defiance. The figure twisted its head, a grotesque parody of curiosity. "He is here." Part of all under the altar. As it spoke, the ground trembled again, and the air thickened with an insidious pulse. Sarah stumbled back, the floor vibrating wildly as the altar cracked open. A guttural cry, strained and haunting, poured forth. It taunted her like an unwanted memory. "Mommy, don't leave me." The voice, a fractured echo of her son's plea, sent shivers down her spine. Hope clashed with the weight of dread. If Lucas was trapped beneath, she had no choice but to act. She rushed toward the altar, bracing for whatever horror lurked underneath. The shadow figure laughed, its laughter a cacophony that filled the chamber. "You'll join him soon." Ignoring the looming threat, Sarah knelt beside the altar, her fingers trembling. The crack widened, revealing shadowy tendrils that seemed alive, writhing with a life of their own. The force pushing against her was visceral, gnawing at her skin as if warning her to step back. But then she heard it again, Lucas. His voice called out, louder this time. "Help me, Mommy. Please." With a fierce determination, Sarah plunged her hand into the abyss of darkness. The shadows coiled around her wrist, biting at her flesh, but she pressed deeper. "Lucas. I'm coming." Suddenly, the shadows surged, pulling her in. Her heart raced as she felt the ground beneath her vanish again. The world spun. This time, the darkness felt sentient, closing in as a whirlwind of screams echoed around her, voices twisted and angry. In a chaotic flurry, she was yanked away from the altar, and everything went blank. The last thing she grasped was a flicker of light, a desperate hope reaching for her before it snuffed out altogether. What would she become in this darkness? Would she ever find her way back, or worse, would she become one with the shadows that whispered her name? As the silence descended again, a chilling question lingered in the air. What truths lay beneath the shadows, waiting to be uncovered? A sudden flare of light jolted Sarah awake. She shot up, gasping for breath. Around her, shadows danced against a rough stone surface, but this time they felt different, less menacing, more alive. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and a faint trace of something sweet, but it was overshadowed by the underlying decay that clawed at her stomach. Through squinted eyes, she saw that she lay on a cold stone floor, somehow disoriented yet aware of every sound: dripping water, a distant creaking, and a quiet hum like a swarm of bees. The flickering light revealed a narrow corridor to her right, littered with more of those grotesque dolls. Their empty eyes stared ahead, as if watching her every move. "Lucas!" she called out, her voice cracking. Desperation hung heavy in the air as she climbed to her feet, the sensation of cold stone permeating through her clothes. "Mommy!" A tiny voice pierced the stillness, echoing from somewhere deep within the shadows. Panic surged through her veins, and she stumbled toward the voice, heart pounding. Every step felt like a chain pulling her deeper into the unknown. At the corridor's end, a door stood ajar, softly breathing faint light. As she crossed the threshold, Sarah gasped. The room transformed into a distorted reflection of her home. It felt intimate yet alien, walls adorned with family pictures framed in tarnished gold, the smiling faces twisted into indistinguishable mocks. Emma, her heart, that little girl with pigtails and laughter, stood there, but with eyes devoid of joy. "What have you done, Mommy?" the apparition whispered, the words curling around her like a serpent. Sarah's breath stalled. "No, that's not me. I would never." But the figure faded in a rippling shimmer, disappearing into nothingness. Deep inside, Sarah felt the pull of guilt, heavy as the stones surrounding her. A sudden rustle to her left made her spin around. The frail figure from before stepped into view, its elongated limbs more grotesque up close, eyes glistening with an unnatural hunger. It leaned closer, every jerky movement branded into her memory. "Do you see? They are all here, your family waiting." "No." She recoiled. "I have to find Lucas." The creature hissed, "He is lost in the dark, where shadows dance. You must give in or he will forever be." A thudding ache throbbed in her temples. She clutched her head, thoughts spiraling. Was this a nightmare or a twisted reality? "Mommy! Help!" The cry pulsated through the room, causing her heart to skip. She had to push past the creature, get to Lucas. She felt the cold brush of its breath. Was it death smiling, teasing? The room closed in as she maneuvered around the figure. She felt sharp talons grasp her shoulder, but she shrugged it off, summoning the last vestiges of strength. The door. It felt like freedom, hope, and she lunged for it, flinging it wide. An abyss stretched before her, a chasm of swirling darkness awaiting, the echoes of Lucas's pleas jerking at her heartstrings. If she jumped, would she finally find him? Or was this just another trap? Do you want to see him? The shadow creature called, its insistence oozing with malice. You must pay first. Time slowed. Sarah's breath quickened. What price would she pay? Turning back to the nightmarish realm seemed impossible, but leaping into the dark abyss felt like an acceptance of despair. A final scream rang out, echoing through the void. She was out of time. But could she really turn her back on him now? Mommy. The voice continued its haunting symphony as Sarah stood before the precipice, the decision pressing like stone on her chest. With the shadows swirling, she must choose where to step next. And in that moment, a rumble echoed from within the chasm, something awakened, promising revelation or ruin what would rise from the depths to meet her. The ground beneath her trembled, a resonant pulsing that radiated through her bones. Sarah edged closer to the precipice, her heart racing against the suffocating grip of fear. Darkness pooled ahead, thick and impenetrable, but there was a sound: tiny gasps, weakened cries. Lucas! She shouted again, her voice bold and frantic against the silent void. The chasm shifted, transforming as she observed shapes bubbling beneath the surface, twisted figures writhing in shadows. They were reaching out, seeking something, someone. Were they lost souls? Or worse? Before she could think, a gnarled hand shot forth, claw-like fingers capturing her gaze. The murky water churned violently. With a mixture of dread and urgency, she leaned forward, her body teetering dangerously on the edge. Was this creature manifesting from her darkest fears? Or could it really lead her to Lucas? Mommy, please! The cry pulled at her very core, a melody woven with terror and love. It resonated in her heart, igniting a fire within. She couldn't turn away. But as her hand reached out toward the abyss, a whisper, cold and sinister, slipped through the air. To find him you must let go of everything you hold dear, even life itself. Sweat dripped down her brow, mixing with tears of frustration. What does that mean? She screamed, desperation giving her voice an edge. Only then can you embrace the darkness, and the darkness will embrace you. The whisper danced around her, curling in her ears like smoke. Chill ran down her spine. Was this a choice or a trap? She felt the weight of memories crash over her. Emma's laugh, their last dance, the warmth of a family unbroken. Would she trade it for Lucas? Would she sacrifice herself to the dark for a chance at saving him? No, I won't do it. She gasped, her body jerking back as she turned to face the corridor behind her. The dolls watched with gleaming eyes, their lifeless forms now appearing as emissaries of doom. But, suddenly, she collapsed as the floor beneath her trembled violently. The shadowy figure from before materialized beside her, all brittle limbs and hunger, closer than ever. Its breath was a rancid mist, and it twisted its mouth into a sickening grin. Too late. It sucked the very air from her lungs. Sarah staggered back, not fully aware of her surroundings now spinning in a surreal blur. All sense of time dissolved. She needed to escape, needed to save Lucas, yet every ounce of her will was being drained by this malevolent specter. In a last attempt, she lunged toward the chasm once more. Lucas! She screamed, voice raw as the darkness recoiled, and in that moment, a light flickered. A small, familiar hand began to reach out from within the abyss. Help me! Energy surged through Sarah as the warmth of hope ignited the depth of her desperation. She wouldn't let him down again. The figure jolted away, twisting in agitation, but she was fixed on that hand. With newfound courage, she prepared to leap, ready to plunge into the foreboding black. But then she hesitated. What if it was an illusion, a trap set up by the darkness? As she fought with herself, shadows coiled tighter around her, whispering her fears. What if you fail? You'll only get lost like the others. Another rumble rippled through the chasm, as if it were answering her. Something dark stirred below, far more fearsome than she anticipated. With that creeping dread clawing at her heart, Sarah realized she had to choose. Did she take the leap into that abyss, risking everything for hope, or remain tethered to the world of shadows surrounding her? The question seeped into her mind: could the darkness be her ally? What awaited her if she followed? As she prepared herself for the leap, the whispers grew louder, twisting into a chant. Step into the dark, let darkness be your guide. But as she leapt, the abyss beneath her twisted, a scream echoed into the void, and an unholy laughter rose around her, scratching at the edges of her sanity. Would she find Lucas, or would she fall forever into the whispers of despair? Soaring through that dark space, she held onto one last thought, the terrifying realization that sometimes, the true horror lies within the choices we make. What awaited her when she landed? As Sarah plunged into the abyss, the darkness wrapped around her like a smothering shroud. The cold was all-consuming, a biting chill that went deeper than just skin. It gnawed at her very soul. Each breath felt like drawing prickly needles into her lungs. The brightness of the chasm's edge faded, swallowed by the void. The sensation of falling seemed to stretch on endlessly. She fought to focus, her heart a thunderous drum in her chest, drowning out the whispering shadows. "Lucas! I'm coming," she screamed, her voice weak and muffled in the oppressive dark. Suddenly, the descent slowed. She felt solid ground beneath her feet. Confused, she stumbled to find her balance and looked around. The shadowy shapes morphed, revealing a landscape of despair that spread out before her: twisted trees, skeletal branches reaching toward an ashen sky, and fog rolling like restless spirits. "Mommy, help me!" The voice pierced the air again, but this time, it was accompanied by a desperation that sent shards of ice down her spine. "Lucas!" She called out, her own voice feeling so small in this vast desolation. She took a step forward, then another, each footfall echoing unnervingly. Was this place real? Or just another trap designed to ensnare her? The fog thickened, swirling as if alive, clutching at her legs, pulling her back. Shadows slithered along the ground, shapes flitting in and out of her line of sight. They taunted her, whispering secrets in a language she couldn't understand. "Leave now or pay the price." "No. I won't abandon my son," she yelled, the determination fueling her steps. She pushed against the chill, brow furrowed, as the voices twisted into obnoxious laughter. Then she saw it, a flicker of light through the clouds of darkness, pulsating like a heartbeat. "Lucas! It's there!" she shouted, feeling hope swell inside her. She raced toward the glow, and as she moved, the ground trembled violently beneath her. Suddenly, the source of the light began to fade, flickering like a dying candle. Panic clawed at her throat. "No, no, no! Lucas, I'm coming!" But the awful truth struck her: the vines and roots began to wrap around her ankles, pulling her down. She fought against them, the shadows now wrapping tighter, thrumming with laughter. "Give and become one with us, embrace the darkness," they chanted, and for a moment, uncertainty crept into her mind. What if this was all there was? What if surrendering would mean finding her son? In a desperate grasp, she fought. "I refuse. I'll save him." She dug her fingers into the cold earth, clawing at it, each movement spurred by sheer will. And then, she felt a tug, a pull, a connection to the light. The shadows roared in anger, but as the light surged back into existence, illuminating the surroundings, she could see a figure: a small boy standing at the edge of a pit. "Lucas!" she screamed, a sob escaping her throat. But something shifted within the light. A dark silhouette emerged next to him, towering and grotesque. Sarah's heart plummeted. The figure wore a twisted smile, the kind that promised pain, the kind that echoed her worst nightmares. "Now, sweet Sarah, the choice lies with you," it hissed, dark eyes glistening with malice. "What will you sacrifice to save him?" Her heart raced, the fear swelling swiftly. Was this the ultimate deception? The moment that could swallow her into eternal darkness? She glanced back at Lucas, his small figure surrounded by a haze of despair. "I want to let you take him. Whatever you want, you can have me." The figure leaned closer, its grin widening, sharp teeth gleaming amidst the shadows. "Ah, but dear heart, perhaps you misunderstand." As the darkness shimmered ominously, Sarah felt the chilling weight of dread settle over her. What had she just agreed to? And as the shadows consumed her voice, she realized, the darkest bargains often came with an unseen price. What lay ahead in this murky world where hope and dread blurred? Would the sacrifice she made be enough to save Lucas, or would they both be lost to the void? The figure loomed over Sarah, an embodiment of her worst fears, mocking her commitment to save her son. The shadows recoiled momentarily, swirling around them like a tempest, waiting for the figure to respond. "You think you know sacrifice?" It sneered. "Let us see how far you'll go." Suddenly, pain shot through Sarah's chest, sharp, electric, as if her very heart was being tugged from her body. She gasped, staggering backward, but the darkness gripped her tight. "No. What's happening?" "Pain is the first price," it said, voice low and menacing. "Feel it, dear Sarah. Let it consume you. Embrace it, and only then will you discover the depths of your resolve." The ground beneath her began to quake, fissures opening like wounds, revealing an ominous, swirling horizon that pulsed with a tainted light. Screams echoed from below, trapped souls attempting to claw their way to freedom, calling out in agony. "Mommy!" Lucas's voice rang clear in the chaos, an anchor amidst the turmoil. She clenched her fists, pushing against the pain, and took another step toward the flickering light that was her son. The runes on the ground glowed with a sickly green hue, shadows whispering wretched promises all around her. Without thinking, she lunged forward, reaching out toward Lucas. "I will get you back. I promise." The dark figure detached itself from the shadows, gliding toward her with eerie grace. "Do you really think you can save him? Can you feel how he shrinks away from your touch?" "No. He needs me. I can save him." She cried out, but her words felt hollow, doubt creeping in. She could sense Lucas's soft whimper in the distance, the sound piercing through the thick mist of dread. And with every second, she feared she would lose him forever. As she edged closer, the shadows clawed at her, tightening their grip, ripping at her resolve. "Give in, Sarah. Save yourself. The pain only question is, what will it take for you to let him go?" "Never." Rage fueled her as she flung the shadows back, her voice a battle cry. The figure's grin widened, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. "Bring forth your greatest fears. Let us see how much you can bear." Images flashed before her eyes, Lucas drowning, his laughter silenced, her own past mistakes haunting her. Memories that twisted deep within, each one a dagger in her heart. Sarah fell to her knees, gasping, overwhelmed. "Please. No more. I'll do anything, just let us go." "Anything?" It laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the chasm. And in that moment, Sarah felt a wave of darkness wash over her, covering her like a thick blanket. She could almost hear Lucas's heartbeat syncing with her own, each thump a frantic plea for help. But with every heartbeat came another weight on her soul, another memory clawing at her sanity. "Yes, anything. Just tell me." She screamed. "Then prove it," the figure hissed, its fingers curling like snakes. "Destroy what you hold most dear." Her breath hitched, knees trembling. What could she sacrifice? The answer loomed terrifyingly close, a riveting choice between her child and something else, a truth buried long ago. She took a shaky breath. "No. I want to sacrifice him. I can't." Then prepare for what's to come. The creature's laughter filled the void, reverberating like 1,000 torturous screams that resounded through her mind. As she felt the shadows take her, sliding through her consciousness, her heart raced. She had to find a way out, not just for herself, but for Lucas. But what if the only way out meant facing the darkness lurking within her very own sins? With every moment dragging her deeper into despair, she had to make a choice. If her love was strong enough to conquer this, broken souls would not be the only sacrifice she would risk. Sarah's mind reeled. Yet unbeknownst to her, above them, the world breathed, raw and oblivious, suspended unaware of the nightmarish dance below. And as the laughter faded into the relentless silence, one final thought struck her: what if her worst fear had already begun? What awaited them trapped in this unrelenting cycle? Would a darker secret emerge from the abyss? The darkness swirled violently around Sarah, closing in like an unwelcoming embrace. Yet, amid the chaos, a spark ignited within her, a fierce love for Lucas that surged like wildfire. She clenched her fists, steeling herself against the sinister laughter mocking her from every corner. "You want my soul?" she challenged, voice steady despite the trembling in her heart. "Fine. But I will not let my son go to you. You'll have to take us both." The figure lurched, a grotesque twist of shadow and malice. It leaned closer, its breath a gust of frigid air. "How noble, but the choice is always yours, dear Sarah." "Not a choice," she spat. "A fight for my son." With each word, the ground beneath her shuddered, fissures spreading like veins throughout the chasm. Echoing screams throbbed through the air, twisting into a cacophony of despair. She closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the shadows, their temptation coiling around her like a serpent. But then, she thought of Lucas, his laughter, his childish innocence. "Mommy." His voice, fragile yet brutally clear, lanced through the haze of fear. Then it hit her: the only reason these shadows existed was because she allowed them to. Focusing on the flickering light that drew her nearer to her son, she pushed past the encroaching darkness. "Leave me alone," she shouted, rage bursting forth like a dam breaking. "You won't take my heart." The figure writhed, fury amplifying the shadows. "You have no idea what you're up against." It howled, twisting its features into a mask of 1,000 tortured souls. Each anguished face mirrored her doubts, her failures, mirrors of a heart once guilty. "Shut up!" Sarah screamed, and with every ounce of her being, she willed the love for her children to shine through like a lighthouse in the storm. She battled against the shadows engulfing her, fighting to reach the light that belonged to her family. Right as she felt herself slipping once more into the abyss, a tether to a memory anchored her back, an image of her holding both Lucas and Emma, laughter brightening her world. "We're stronger together. I refuse to let you win." She lunged forward, pushing through the darkness that clawed at her skin. The ground shook violently as she felt an intimate connection pull her closer to Lucas. "He needs me. I'll find him." With a fearless roar, she surged ahead, the shadows shrieking in agony as they fought against her light. She could see his little silhouette clearer now, framed by the glow laughing against the edge of despair. Finally, she broke through, crashing into that abyss of light and suspended silence. Bright, free, but still aching, she found herself standing on the threshold of an expansive, surreal landscape. The walls of dark energy faded away like ash in the wind, unveiling vibrant flower fields and vivid sky above, a stark contrast to the prison she had just left behind. "Lucas!" she cried again, panic rising as the surreal landscape beckoned her on. If this was victory, where was her son? "Mommy!" This time, his voice soared through the beauty, clear and pure. She ran forward, her heart racing, legs propelled by an overwhelming force of love igniting every sinew within. And there he was, Lucas, standing at the center of a magnificent glow, his face beaming with joy. Tears streamed down her face as she fell to her knees, sweeping him into her arms. "I thought I lost you. Never, Mommy, he whispered, tangled in her embrace. I was waiting for you. I knew you'd come. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of every battle lost against the shadows wash away. The warmth of love, a force both tangible and limitless, swirled around them, dispelling the remnants of darkness lingering in the air. The landscape began to shift, blooming into a new realm. Together, we stepped through, Lucas told her, his eyes bright, reflecting that undeniable spark of home. It's a place we made for us. Trembling with relief, she stood up, holding his small hand close against hers. Then let us go home. This newfound light enveloped them both, pulling them gently from the enchantment of shadows and sorrow. With determination in their hearts, they walked hand in hand into an unimaginable future, one that promised safety, warmth, and a family that endured through trials untold, but prevailed with love stronger than fear. As they left the darkness behind, Sarah turned back, her heart quieting any remnants of doubt. The shadows dissolved into nothingness, no longer having power over her. Now, there was only the laughter of her children ahead, echoing through newly formed paths bathed in light. And as they ventured forward, Sarah made a promise to always protect her family, to face the light and chase away the shadows, armed with love that knows no bounds. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this story's ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the light together.